Hi, everyone. My name is Veronica Gonzalez, pronouns she, hers. I am the manager with time-limited subsidies here at LASA. Time-limited subsidies under the permanent housing umbrella encompasses recovery housing, rapid rehousing, and our shallow subsidy programs. And I'll let my fellow panelists introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Lorena. I'm with Union Station. During Project Roomkey, I was a project director for 2 Project Roomkey sites with Union Station, and now I'm the associate director for rapid and recovery housing programs at Union Station.
Martin, would you like to go next? I think, oh, there we go.
Yes, you got me there. Hello, everybody. My name is Martin O'Gain. I'm with the lead group in Los Angeles here, and I'm here to present. I'm kind of shooken up because to get on, as you guys, I don't know if anyone knows, it's kind of a shaky thing. So I'm still trying to get my wits of it all. But anyway, that's my name and who I am.
Thanks, Martin. Yes.
Good to see you, Lorena.
Definitely understand. Virtual conferences, so thank you so much. So quick overview of our agenda today. We're going to do a little bit of PRK background, do a panel discussion, and then towards the end, we're going to do any questions from the audience that y'all might have. So a little bit about Project Roomkey, a brief overview. Project Roomkey was a coordinated effort to secure hotel and motel rooms in LA County as a temporary shelters for people experiencing homelessness who are at high risk of COVID. The target population was high-risk older adults, 65 and older, and or those suffering from any chronic illnesses. The Project Roomkey started in March of 2020, and there was a total of 48 PRK projects throughout all of LA County. So the goal for Project Roomkey was really to ensure that no one exits to the streets, right? We really want to ensure PRK to permit housing. There was an increased focus on permanent housing placements directly from PRK sites. There was a central coordination by the LASA team alongside our site operators, like Lorena and her team, housing providers, and other key partners to get this work done in collaboration. Active demobilization of a site occurs within 7 to 8 weeks before the site closes. So demobilization is definitely the closing of our PRK sites. And again, it starts 7 to 8 weeks before the site closes. So the coordinated effort between LASA and HUD TA was used to increase the amount of folks that exit to permanent housing outcomes. We had daily meetings with our HUD TA partners and LASA to share PRK data and housing updates. We implemented a PRK to home toolkit, which really focused on identifying clients that were in PRK who needed to be connected to time-limited subsidies, and really focusing on bridging the gap and sort of standardizing the message across all providers, and activating rehousing efforts in our county. This also led to an increase of on-site presence for LASA and the RRP providers, recovery providers. And so the success of PRK to home has really been to build off and enhance the demobilization of motels. The most recent PRK site that came offline had one of our best permanent housing outcomes. As I showed earlier, there was a total of 48. But in this last demobilization of a Project Roomkey site, 48% of those exited to a permanent housing destination. 41% of them to interim housing, 2%, 2.7% exited that were still enrolled. And then we had some folks who exited before we were able to enroll them in any of our programs. Why is it so successful? We believe that we have really tried to train on engagement. We've tried to increase the amount of daily huddles between providers and LASAs. We've really emphasized the need to be on site and really use our residential property support services to be the linkage to landlords. We've done housing fairs at numerous sites, and through the addition of rental assistance, but also we utilize motel vouchers once PRK sites were demobilizing. Oops. So now we're going to go into our panelist discussion. And as we introduced earlier, that is Martin Holguin from the Live Experience Advisory Board. Thank you for being here. Lorena Ruiz, our AD from Recovery and Rehousing Programs for our provider Union Station. And I will be moderating this part of this presentation. I'm again Veronica Gonzalez, the manager with time limited subsidies for LASA. I'm going to go to our questions. Okay, so Martin and Lorena, this is the questions for y'all. Can you sort of describe the beginning of the pandemic and how it affected you in regard to Project Roomkey?
Ladies first, you want to go first, Lorena?
Go ahead, Martin.
I'll wrestle you. How's that? No. The way it affected me in the beginning, as opposed to Roomkey, my wife and I were struggling to stay off the street, you might say. And for the first 6 months, we were able to get motel vouchers. And then our manager, case manager, had come to us about a week after and told us that those 6 months had ended, that there was no more vouchers left. And my biggest fear was to end up with my wife and I on the street because the whole thing of being homeless was so another story in itself, but it just came by surprise. And we were there, and I just couldn't imagine being on the street. And we're both 60 at that time, and we both have medical challenges. So the case manager came back in about a week after we were told no more, and offered us the Project Roomkey program and said we had qualified because of our medical problems. And it was great news to us, and we were very happy to hear it. So we continued to, first day on there in March when they first started, and we went all the way to the end. It's about how it affected us, got us in a safe area.
Thank you for sharing, Martin. For me as a
pleasure.
service provider with PRK, the beginning of the pandemic was definitely scary, but for me, it was an all hands on deck type of situation. We didn't know what to expect, but we knew that Project Roomkey was a critical resource or something like it, right? We knew that there were folks out there, like Martin has shared, who needed this resource in order to safely self-isolate, as we still were learning a lot of COVID-19 and its potential impact. So for myself and my team, we all jumped on board to assist in whatever way we could.
Thank you for that, both Martin and Lorena. Can you tell us a little bit of like the challenges and barriers you faced with Project Roomkey?
Sure. Keep in mind that Project Roomkey at the time we started was the first in the United States, what I understand, to become such a project to house the homeless from, and it was a all over the California. So it was a program in its infancy, and because of that, you're going to come across challenges. When my wife and I were in the program, the biggest challenge we had was overcoming. They had time limits. There were time limits that you can leave. There was times you can't. You had to. So it presented a challenge in the way of trying to find a place within that restriction of time. Because we got to the point that we wanted to look up north, San Diego, because things were here in Los Angeles and San Bernardino County was not looking too promising at the time. So that really held us back. It was the biggest challenge we had to overcome that. I would say it's, and what ended up happening is I end up asking to meet with the supervisor of the site. I try to explain my side and what was holding us back, which would be counterproductive to the goals of what one of the goals of Project Roomkey. And he actually turned me down and said, that's the rules we have to live by, because if you didn't follow the rules and that, you could get written up, and then eventually, if you kept it up, you would be terminated from the program, and we certainly didn't want that. So then I met with his supervisor above, and we got the permission to go ahead and have more time, as long as they could, we kept in, checked in and so forth. And it did help, because here we are, I'm now in my own place, and it was because we had a little bit of time. So I would say that would be one of the biggest challenges that we had.
Thank you, Martin. As a service provider, it definitely, there was a lot of challenges during Project Roomkey, but I think the biggest one was just not knowing how long the pandemic would last. We were planning, sort of going month by month. Every 3 months, we did a check-in, and I think at some point we realized, this is not going away. This virus is not going away. So we had to figure out plans for permanent housing to help folks move into permanent housing from Project Roomkey. But during that time, we just had to be very flexible and patient. As a project director, I was really concerned about keeping folks safe from the virus, both participants and staff that were working there, because although it was supposed to be non-congregate shelter, there were a few times when I had to remind folks, try to maintain that 6 feet of distance, because I think naturally, just as humans, we try to come together as we're talking, and we forget about those 6 feet. And so there was a lot of learning that I had to do. I wanted to just make sure that I had all the information that I could get in order to make the best decisions for folks that were both staying at Project Roomkey and were working there.
All right, thank you. So on to our next question. Could you tell us what the greatest takeaways were for you? What worked, right? We just talked about what the challenges and barriers were. Could you tell us a little bit about what worked and maybe what was the best part of Project Roomkey?
I would say that for me and my wife, I would say that, of course, the best thing was to have a roof over our head, a bed to sleep in, and then the ability to sit down and plan a strategy that would be, toward getting back on our feet again and having an income and working everything out. I would say that would be one of the things that we were very appreciative, because if you don't have that, and you're on the street trying to work around, it's rather hard, to plan things that way. So it was nice to be able to sit into and one other thing that was nice is to be able to get, the bed and go to sleep, because sleep is such an important factor in just our human health. I mean, if you don't have enough sleep, it can cause you to have depression. It can cause you to get, believe it or not, worse than diabetes. You have a higher thing and finding out these different diseases. So it was, I would say, very nice to have those. And it will, of course, be nice to be picked for the program, So that I would say would be the greatest takeaways for us.
I'm so glad that was your experience, Martin, because for me as service provider, the best moment was when we were able to get every room filled. First of all, I was so impressed at how fast our team was able to ramp up this project. Like literally within days, we had to fill this motel building, and we did it within like a week or two. And I had never really seen that before. I've been working in this field for a long time, and to be able to see people coming together so fast to, with this same goal in mind, to allow folks who were on the street to help them get into interim housing, to be able to self-isolate. Like that was so rewarding to me. As somebody who has seen, I think, a very slow progress in the homelessness sector. So that was the best part of it. And just in general, the era of collaboration among service providers, different entities, the fire department, emergency services, LASA, everybody had this goal in mind of we need to help folks stay safe and also help them get into housing, permanent housing. And so that I think was the best part of the experience for me.
Veronica, may I add one thing to what I just said? If I may, the best part of Project Roomkey was the day we left and went into our place. I mean, we enjoyed it. I mean, we're very grateful for that time, but I'll tell you, I would say the greatest thing we ever had was when we shook hands with everybody and said goodbye, which we went the whole route. I mean, it was pretty much, I think it was a week left when they were closing everything up. So it was a great thing. And matter of fact, I had bought a little cake and we celebrated because, that's what the whole thing was about, is ending up in your own place, so I would say that was one of the greatest things when we walked out there, got our keys to our new place and said goodbye, if that makes sense.
That definitely makes sense, Martin. And thank you for sharing that as well. On the same note, right, like when we talk about Project Roomkey and getting in there and everything that went into that, can we talk a little bit can you tell us a little bit about the challenges on your path to permanent housing? Like any sort of barriers or challenges you and your wife faced along that path?
I looked at that question and, I felt that when I answered number 2 about the obstacles and trying to find, I'm not sure much more, but if I could say something other than that, would you be acceptable to that? Excuse me. Because, the challenge we had, like I say, was basically getting landlords, talking to the landlords, having them understand who we were. Sometimes when you say, do you take Section 8? I mean, they pretty much close the door on you. It was very difficult in that regard because, I mean, we must have we were ready to go up north or down to San Diego because we exhausted San Bernardino and Los Angeles County. I mean, and we were fortunate enough to have a vehicle, because if we didn't have a car, I don't see how you could do that, because it's, you have to, it's not just one place. You go to one, you go to the other, and and then there's some that you have to wait 5 to 7 years just to get into. So it was very difficult in regards to deal with both, and as well as, in respect to Lorena there, I don't envy the position of at that time, or any time really, of our, matter of fact, union stations who we work with, of the person trying to help you get into a place, because their hands are very limited as well. I think they have less chance than, because my wife and I basically went out on our own quite a bit, and it's just very difficult for. We felt bad for our service, the case manager in our case, because we go out, he would schedule, we go out, we meet a few places, and he give his best talk. He tell me, look, I'll back him up, I'll be with him, I'm not just going to leave him here, if you need me, I'm here. And yet, some people just didn't want to hear it. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to get involved. And then in some cases, what we thought would be a livable place, we go and see it, and a bug would answer the door. I mean, literally. I mean, there'd be bugs all over and stuff. And my service provider, he would look at us like, oh, I'm sorry, but we go in, at least go through it for courtesy purposes. But so I would say that there were a lot of challenges just trying to get with the landlords and everybody in mind, going that way. So that's I would say one of the hard parts of it.
Thank you for sharing that, Martin.
I definitely agree with that. As I was moving, as we were demobilizing Project Roomkey, I was also moving into recovery rehousing, which is sort of the other end of Project Roomkey, where we were able to assist families like Martin and other families in the PRK program to find housing out in the community. That was a really challenging time too, because of all the things that Martin has just described. As service providers, I've seen this, I've gotten hung up on, like the door shut in my face. Folks have a hard time, I think, understanding that folks who are experiencing homelessness are also also have the right to housing. And it's not about whether or not somebody deserves housing. It's about housing is a human right. And so it's definitely been a challenge to get like buy-in from a lot of landlords, but it's also been, I think, really eye-opening for me to see what will be driving, what drives landlords or property management companies to work with us. And that has been that support that the team can provide to the tenant, to the participant.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. I think now we're gonna, sort of, we discussed the challenges and barriers and what worked in Project Roomkey, and we just asked about, the barriers and challenges of permanent housing. So this is one of my favorite parts of the questions, is like, tell us about the best part of your journey, right, to permanent housing. And I know, Martin, you shared a little bit about leaving PRK and having a cake. It's a wonderful story. But I like if you could share with us, like, other, what that journey was like.
I would say that, well, thank you about the cake. I didn't mean to be so dramatic about it. It actually, anyway, I would say meeting the people I met, working alongside, our case manager, and meeting some other people that were homeless, and watching them be able to get places. To this day, we even are in touch with some. It's that would be one of the best parts of the journey, because up into the age of 60, my wife and I had lived a very nice life, to be honest with you. And what happened, I'm not going to go into because it'd take a whole nother meeting, but we fell into a situation and pretty much lost everything, everything in one, practically overnight. And never did you think you'd be in this kind of position. And I was always a person who, seen people get changed on the street, but you can never, ever, and I don't care how much school you have or degrees you have or who you are, you can never really know what it's like to be homeless until you are. And to say the least, it's very scary. A lot of people change, that you knew, and you're treated much differently. And it's kind of sad. The society is that way. I mean, suddenly, it's just sad because, nobody, excuse me, I don't think anybody is born to be homeless. You just, like myself, you end up that way, but yet people, I think, they just don't understand what homelessness is, because it's a very, very frightening thing. Matter of fact, you go through different stages. You could, when you first, I believe, are homeless, you kind of go through, oh boy, I'm homeless. What am I going to do? And then you go and try to find help, and hopefully you do, which I would say that the people that do help you, if they don't already know it, and they should always keep this in their mind, that they're much the same as a doctor. They're saving lives. They're not just helping people get homes. They're really saving lives, because what happens is as time goes on and you're in that position of homelessness, you become a guy who first had a little bit of dirty clothes, maybe didn't shower as much, but your dignity, and people rip you down so badly that eventually you believe what they're telling you. You're worthless. You're nothing, and you're never going to get ahead. And the people that are there to help, if they're able to, given the right resources, believe me, they're saving a life, because eventually I think you get to the point, and I met people when I were homeless that used to have $150,000 jobs. I knew one personally that before I became homeless, that used to be a big district manager for markets, and it's just sad mentally what that does to a person, and so the people out there that are helping these people, remember that you really have not, the job you've taken is much like a doctor. You've agreed to go out there, and don't take it lightly, because it is, you're dealing with people's life. If you can get them soon enough, it's not so difficult. Like myself and my wife, we're very fortunate to not have to experience, but I've heard even as being in this particular position and going to meetings, I've heard people that have been in it a lot longer and still suffering it. And, I know what they're, I just couldn't imagine. Like I say, my wife and I, the biggest thing we were worried about is even being put on the street. But the journey and the best thing I think was meeting the people that are helping other people, that want to help other people, and seeing people getting help. For me, that was my wife. That was very gratifying. That's why I try to get. I promised myself once I get back on my feet, I would not take homelessness so lightly. Not that I ever did, but like I said, I understood a whole different. I mean, the society out there that we just, like I say, I don't care how much education you have, how much you care about people. You become homeless. Believe me, it's a frightening thing, and to think, especially the older you are, like me, my wife, we're 60 years old. We're thinking to ourselves, my God, we brought up 3 beautiful kids. We've taken care of both of our parents. We were somewhat successful because of a circumstance. This is where we're going to end up, and then when you go ask people for help, it's sad that the proper resources aren't given, I think, to the people like Lorena. That, I mean, that's just my opinion, because I know that our caseworker, he's the, I'd be on him every day, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? And it's you, they want to do so much more. And I knew that. And it's just like, they just don't know how to deal sometimes. And I think that that's one thing we need to do is, and I think Project Roomkey could be a very good thing. I mean, if it's looked at honestly, because there were flaws. I mean, it's the first time this ever been put together. All these groups. I mean, I think it can be a fantastic tool in helping the homeless, but I do think that there are things about it that you have to be honest to people that are working with there to look at and use in the future, like HomeKey or whatever. And I think it's fantastic because it got me back on my feet. It certainly. I mean, I'm a testament to what it can do. We're back on our feet and we're living on our own, and it's a beautiful thing. And I I wish everyone the best in trying to help someone, or if they're being helped, I mean, because it's a rough gig, if you will. That's about it. Good luck, Lorena. As I said, I would not want to, I know you're, and you're a director of Union Station. God bless you. God bless you, Lorena.
I think everything that you said, Martin, resonates so strongly with me because I think on the other end of that, as I, led a team working to house folks that were coming from Project Roomkey into recovery housing, I saw the dedication that so many folks, so many staff, care coordinators, housing liaisons, there is a lot of dedication and there is a lot of people out there that want to make a difference and want to have an impact. I think the pandemic made it really hard for folks because a lot of them had to choose between, do I need to, can I do this? Or do I need to keep my family safe, right? And so I think that made it really challenging because not only were they trying to do something positive for their community, they were also thinking about their own health, their clients' health, their family's health, and that I think added a whole nother layer that a lot of folks weren't necessarily prepared for. I had no idea before the pandemic that this would ever happen, and I think it's just a reminder to me that there are people out there that are wanting to make a difference, and having the right tools is super important. Having the right structures, just like Project Roomkey is a model, I think, for helping folks get into housing quickly.
Definitely.
I think that for me, that was the best part of it. Having that 2020 hindsight vision now, you can see there are definitely things that could be improved, but the overall model, I think, was really helpful for us as service providers who were operating under a crisis mode in the early pandemic days.
May I say it was also nice to not worry about toilet paper during that time. That was amazing. People being, you're going to see no toilet, but we never had to worry doing Project Roomkey. I don't know where they had a stash or where they got it from, but we never had to worry. And that was kind of nice because you go into Walmart and you see the thing empty, you go, wow, we never felt that either. So that was kind of nice.
Thank you, Martin. I think,
Sure.
yeah, that's valuable. I didn't even think of it from that perspective, but thank you for sharing such a powerful message. We really appreciate, that vulnerability, and definitely your role in the leadership and lived experience board is really helpful. Thank you, Lorena, for those questions. We're going to move on now. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the questions? All right, so now we're going to jump into if we have any questions from our audience members. Is there any additional sort of questions you have for Martin or Lorena?
We're that bad, Loretta. No one else asked us a question.
I was just gonna say, I can't see the chat box, Tori, so if you want to flag anything for me.
I know there were some questions on the chat coming in. I saw them, I think.
I think I see one.
All right, go ahead, Lorena.
Steve Freeman. Do you all see Project Roomkey counting to be an ongoing practice moving forward post-pandemic? Veronica, I think that's a question for you.
Yes, I really.
I will say that I know Project Roomkey maybe as a model is going to be maybe evaluated for what Martin just said, the success and the challenges. But I don't know that PRK itself will continue in the same fashion. I know my director is here, Yvette, so if you'd like to add anything to that on the PRK side that you're aware of.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here with you all. And thank you, Martin and Lorena, for your contribution to this presentation, and Veronica for moderating, and all of our folks joining us here. With respect to PRK, we are looking at some options to see if it would be feasible to continue such type of programming moving forward, but we are also exploring HomeKey, Project HomeKey, which would be permanent housing programming. So folks who may be eligible for that were in PRKs would be able to then transition into permanent housing, which is now the Project HomeKey programs.
They're one of the same, correct? Sort of, in a way.
The Project Roomkeys were obviously temporary motel programs with our time-limited subsidies opportunities that our clients were connected to, but the HomeKey would be essentially permanent supportive housing with subsidies that would be ongoing. And so LAHSA, in coordination with our state, city, county partners, are applying for different types of HomeKey opportunities to be able to develop those programs as permanent solutions.
May I throw something in there too? One thing that was very helpful for us was when we were making our transition into our regular housing or to our own person. They subsidized the rent for, it was supposed to be 2 years, but we did earlier until the Section 8 kicked in and so forth. That was very helpful. Would that continue for people? I'm not supposed to be asking questions, but I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah,
So,
those
it
are
was very
good.
helpful for us.
That's a great question, Martin. Yes, ideally, our goal is to make sure that some of our clients who continue to be on those time-limited subsidies, so the temporary financial assistance, to be able to move on to permanent subsidies, whether it's the housing choice voucher, which is Section 8, or emergency emergency housing vouchers, or any other continuum of care vouchers as they would be eligible. And often, or some other times, our participants are able to resolve and able to sustain an independent housing without a subsidy.
All right, thank you for that, Yvette. I know we got in the chat from Tori that maybe the question was whether the case management meetings with clients were weekly, daily, and in person. So not sure, Lorena, if you want to answer that, and Martin as well.
Yeah,
You mean meeting with our case managers? Is that what that you're referring to? How much we met with them? Well, if that's the question, we met with ours when needed. Let's put it that way. And to be honest with you, I preferred not to meet as much because we were pretty much our schedule. We're wanting to find a place took a lot of time. Like I say, and realistically, our case manager had other people. We knew that. But the only way we were able to find a place would be around the clock. I mean, if you will, as much time as we could, knocking on doors and saying hello and meeting, and we could not really expect a case manager to do that. And that was all it was about. I mean, there was no other reason to meet. If we did have a reason, whether they met with us. So it wasn't really on a scheduled basis. It was as needed, you know, and that worked for us just fine. So.
Yeah, I would say that it varies for each participant, but so during Project Roomkey, like during the sites, we had staff that were on site that were meeting with program participants. I would say weekly, maybe sometimes a little bit more often or a little less often, every other week, perhaps. And once the time limited subsidy program came in, then those care coordinators were collaborating with the care coordinators for the time limited subsidy. And those care coordinators were going into Project Roomkey, I would say about weekly or so. During the demobilization process, that I think was ramped up because we wanted to ensure that we were meeting with folks pretty regularly to take them on unit viewing, sometimes twice, 3 times a week, depending on just the need of the participant. Some participants wanted to meet like pretty often. Other folks were like, no, you know what, I got this. I'll look on my own. I'll bring you leads. So it definitely varied, but we try to ensure that that our staff are meeting with participants really often if they're not housed yet. And if they are, then it's a little bit more like a step back. So maybe once a month, depending on, you know, next month something happens, then we would meet with that person a little bit more often.
Like I said, that was, and you're right, that was my preference, and my caseworker respected it because I had requested, you know, that let me call you type thing, but yet, you know, that's mine. Now the person, like Lorena says, that perhaps needs them a lot more, and there are people like that. I'm sure that they accommodated, as Lorena said. So, but that was my preference, and they respected. So to each, you know, person's preference.
Thank you for that. I see another question here. They have an elderly couple currently in a PRK site. They've been given 21 days. How do you make referrals to Project HomeKey? And I think, Lauren, I know you all have a Project HomeKey you operate, so you can sort of share how that referral process works.
Sure. So if you use HMIS Clarity, you're able to submit a referral through Clarity. In the assessments tab, you can go to assessments, and I believe the assessment that needs to be completed is interim housing referral. That's about it, I think. Yes.
Yes.
So you might want to tell what's, for my own sake too, what's HIMS? I've never, yeah, there's a lot of letters and sometimes I read things PRK, so sometimes I get a little lost in that, and I'm just kind of curious what that is.
Of course.
It's a system, right?
It's a system that we use to maintain client information, and it's secured. It's information that we keep for us to help to be able to track progress on the program and on each participant. When we enroll a participant into any program that uses HMIS, we talk to them about the program, about the database, and ensure that we get their consent to enter that information, and assure them that that information stays confidential because it is a secured program.
Thank you.
All right, thanks Yvette for your help in the chat box. So one of the last questions I see here is, Martin briefly spoke about, you know, facing a lot of challenges with landlords maybe not wanting to accept any Section 8 subsidy, and that they're flagging that this is, a source of income discrimination. And do you have any recommendations for how to better implement? Sorry. Thanks. Protections to protect the source of income discrimination. What do you do as an agency, Lorena?
Well, you know, it's hard to say, really. You know, I mean, what we did is we just actually got our income up, you know, to meet standards. But I know what you're saying, because at first we didn't have the income showing, and you know, a lot of it's just really, there's nothing you can do except, you know, go to Congress and ask your congressman to change the laws or implement laws that would help us. That would be one way to do it. You know, and other than that, there is nothing to force them to have to even accept the Section 8. So, and which is a lot of these places. And then you got your waiting list. So I would say just like we did, I mean, I can't tell you the number of places that we looked at before we found our place that we're in now. I mean, and it was a combination of our case manager. He always had he reminded me of a salesman. He'll say, "I'll back you up. Yeah, I'll be right there." He'd tell the landlord and we both would work the landlord and trying to make him understand that, hey, look, this isn't an ending. This is not a bad thing, and this is a good thing for you. You're going to get guaranteed income. The problem that the landlords have with this is they get locked into to a certain rate. And the way Section 8 works is that when you're looking at a place, even if they accept Section 8, it has to be an approval of the people that administer Section 8, meaning like two people can only have a 1-bedroom, and there's a certain rate they give you. And yet the landlord doesn't want to accept that rate because he's thinking, well, I'm going to get locked in. Like recently, the way these apartments have gone up, it's just unbelievable. They sky high. So, and even Section 8 has raised their rents to try to keep up with it, but they've raised so high that you get, that's the other problem is suddenly you get approved, but the rate is too high, and then the landlord doesn't want to go down because he feels that he'll get stuck on a lower rate and so forth. So it's it is difficult to find it. You just, my best suggestion is keep trying and maybe write to congressman if you feel that there's something on your mind that you want to change. That's what I would say. I like the lake behind you, Veronica. Where are you?
In the middle of a lake.
You're making me want to go swimming after this. Is that above? I love it. How do you make to get such a place to work for?
Exactly. So Lorena, would you like to add anything as a provider? What do you recommend other providers and what avenues to take when faced with those situations?
Absolutely. That piece. So I've gone through so many times, like looking at apartment descriptions where it says no Section 8, and it gets me so frustrated as a person because I know that that's illegal. Like that's a form of income discrimination. So one thing that I think can be really helpful is you yourself learning more about why that is illegal, why it's not okay to discriminate against income source, and finding a way to talk to landlords about it, to provide that education piece. There's a way to do it that is non-confrontational, that is very professional, and it's reassuring to the landlords because there is definitely a negative stigma around Section 8, the idea of a subsidy like that. And so being able to provide education to landlords, property management companies in a way that's helpful to them to understand why it can be beneficial actually for their business, right? That's one. And then the other thing would be if a lot of emergency housing choice vouchers or housing choice vouchers, emergency housing vouchers have incentives that landlords can access if they sign up with a participant or a tenant that has a voucher. That's something that you can bring to the landlord as an added benefit for them to sign on.
Lorena, if I may say again, I hate to jump. One thing I will say, after I've been here, I even met with my apartment manager and asked them what's on their mind, trying to get the perspective of both. One thing I would suggest is the caseworkers go out to these apartments, not necessarily with the person that they're trying, but just to shake hands and keep in touch and try to create a friendly atmosphere so that when they do want to talk about Section 8 or they do find somebody, it's not such I think a cold call, if you will. You're not going out and say, hey, you're not gonna say, hey, can you rent it? You've already called John. Hey, John, I'm how you doing? Listen, I got somebody here. I think it's important because one thing my landlord here said is that a lot of times he sees them just only at that time when they want to rent it. So, and I know that the time is limited, like I say, with you guys are being spread all over, but it would be nice, I think, if you guys go out there and everybody, including anyone, shake hands and just let them know that they're appreciated and any help they give is well appreciated by everybody. I think that would be nice. If that might smooth things a little.
Yeah, absolutely. That relationship building is key. One thing that I'm really proud of that Union Station has been able to do in the last year is build out the housing location branch. And we're still working on it, but essentially having dedicated teams that are out there creating those relationships, bringing in more landlords, talking to them about programs like this one, and ensuring them that this participant is, is not just going to get quote unquote dumped on them, like a lot of folks seem to think. It's, each participant comes with a network, a team of folks that are there to support them, and that in turn supports the landlord, because if and when there are issues that come up, the landlord has somebody that they can reach out to. So that is also really helpful.
That's great. Okay, so Martin, I have one last question here. Martin, would you consider seeking paid employment as a case manager or other role working with the homeless population?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. Just helping people in general. But sure, you want to give me money for it, I'd be interested. Because what I'm doing right now, and it truly is something that I was inspired from being in my particular position at the time. I mean, it just, like I say, there's people out there that even need a little bit of help, like I did. And, so yeah, I'd be interested. It'd have to pay well, and I have to be at least a title of director. No, I'm joking. Janitor, how's that? I'll be watch me go for the job, and they say, okay, grab that broom and sweep a little. No, just joking. Yes, I'd be interested. You would have to go through my agent, Tiffany. She's my agent.
Okay. All right. There was an actual question, so I hope you take that as a real sort of inquiry.
Oh yeah, I would. Yes.
Okay.
I'm thinking seriously.
So I don't see any other questions for us in the chat. I checked the Q&A. Just want to give folks another minute. If they have any questions, we do have about 5 more minutes before our session is over, to see if there's any other questions y'all have for our panelists. All right. Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you for bearing with us with the technology issues early on. Great job. Thank you, Lorena, for being our panelist. Appreciate you as a provider and as a partner. Thank you, Yvette, and thank you to you all. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you for all the questions. Bye, everyone.
You bet.
Everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
You do the same.